Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Hi, Mom.
Well, I'm excited today. We're talking today about peer support groups and Facebook Live and that kind of thing, and we're doing it. And we've got a guest on from Switzerland, who's in Switzerland, which is absolutely amazing, isn't it?
I love it, Mom. And I love the internet because we can all come here literally from all over the world and create a virtual community today.
Yeah, and we can talk about, issues of loss of a twin and child loss and all sorts of kind of niche topics. That's what I love about the internet. We can really kind of dive a little bit deeper into issues than would actually happen in the world at large. So that's what we're all about here. So, Heidi, do you want to introduce our guest then today and topic?
Sure, would love to, Mom. So we are going to be talking today with Nathalie Himmelrich, and she is a psychotherapist. She is the author of numerous books, and most of her books are for grieving parents. She is the founder of the Grieving Parents Support Network. And Mom, she gave birth to identical twin girls, and 3 days after she gave birth to them, the youngest twin girl died. So we will be talking to her more about that as well. So welcome to the show, Nathalie.
Thank you so much for having me. I think you two do great things, and you gave such a service to the bereaved community. So thank you for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you on. I wanted to just have you say your name again and tell what it means, because I loved that when we were talking to you prior to the show.
Yeah, so my last name, Himmelrich, means Kingdom of Heaven, and it's German. It's Swiss German, in fact.
Lovely. Now, where are you in Switzerland today?
So I'm near Zurich. So that's the biggest city, not the capital, but Switzerland is so small. So if you point your finger, then you're right there.
Well, you've got quite a presence on the internet. You've got some amazing video about your life and experience and being pregnant.
Yes, you do. It's very moving.
Thank you. So I think you're talking about the video that I made for the second birthday of my girls, and I made a tribute to Amaya.
Yes.
And the reason that I did that was because, I feel that my daughter, who's alive, she gets all the presents, she gets all the attention. And, just for me, that's one of the ways that I teach, or that I, show people as well, is to find ways to continuously remember the children that have passed, that are dead, and in a way to keep them alive in whatever ways is helpful. So I made that as a tribute to Amaya, and it's also Father's Day in Australia. That's where they were born. Just the first Sunday in September is Father's Day. So I made that for their second birthday.
And talk about their names. When you called them, when you were pregnant, you called them Hope and Passion.
Yeah. So basically, I got pregnant through IVF, and it was my first trial of IVF, and we got pregnant. And then I had this thing with twins, but when we did the 8-week scan, it was discovered that they were twins, even though we only implanted one egg. But then at week 19, they realized that Amaya had, or the younger one, the little one had multicystic kidneys. And when you have twins, they usually call them A and B, or 1 and 2. And we just felt, we had so many scans because I was also an older mom, and it just becomes very impersonal and impersonal, and it's strange to call them A and B when they're actually little people who kick you and move around inside of you. And so my husband said, why don't we choose some angel cards? And I looked at him and I said, really? Angel cards? And he said, yeah. And so we chose the first one, which was for the twin B, the littler one. And the card that came was Hope.
Wow.
And the second card that came was Passion. And the daughter that I raise in life, she is very passionate. So it has definitely been fitting. So we just call them Hope and Passion during the pregnancy, just as a way to identify them with a name and with a personality rather than numbers or letters. And when they were born, I had picked out names for them. No, we hadn't, but we had sort of a list of names. And then when we picked out the names, the people surrounding us who were supporting us through the pregnancy, they said, well, you can't just leave those names out. You can't just leave Hope and Passion. You can't just leave them. And so we thought, okay. And that's why my daughter is now called Ananda May, which would have been a first and a middle name. And so now she's called Ananda May as her first name, as a double name, and she's called Passion as her middle name.
Well, I love that. That's beautiful.
It really is so touching. Now, how long has it been since you lost your baby?
So my daughter, they were born on the 1st of September 2011. So on the 1st of March, we just celebrated the 6.5-year birthday. We celebrate half birthdays as well. And yeah, that was 6.5 years ago when our daughters were born, and they were born 34 weeks, so a little bit early, because they noticed that the amniotic fluid was reducing, and so they suggested that they were born early, and so they came by cesarean. And within a few days, it was clear that her renal system wasn't producing any fluid, and we decided as parents to withdraw care. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the most difficult decisions that any parent in that state, when you just gave birth, has to make. However, what I also say is that to be able to be present when she died, to hold her in my arms, that was one of the most honoring moments in my life. And it might sound strange to be present at a death to be an honor, but for me, yes, of course, at the same time, there's this huge sadness that comes with it. Of course, the mother's longing for the child, because that's just how it is. But also the presence that I was able to give her, to be there when she died, the same as I was present when she was born. That's just, there's not a word, there's no words that actually describe that experience.
Well, Nathalie, and I loved the video because I think it captured a lot of that you have online. And one of my favorite images is of the twins, and you holding them close together with their little heads together and their little heartbeats together. It was so powerful. It's that sibling bond.
Yeah, that was one of the images that I had all along in my pregnancy, like just that image of holding them close to me in kangaroo care, just having them both on my chest. And that was the only time that I had them, because Amaya was too little and too frail to be held before. Okay. And when we decided to withdraw care, that was basically the only time I could hold her. Yeah. When she was alive. And so we had them both on my chest. And yeah, I mean, you can see it in the video. I mean, it was a beautiful moment. And that was sort of the picture that I wanted to keep for myself for later.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know people that are hearing this are wondering where they can see that. I want to see it.
Well, that's on my YouTube channel, and it's on YouTube. And if you look for Nathalie Himmelrich, then everyone can just find it, or we can put a link underneath the video as well.
That's incredible. And we're talking about, Facebook and what you're able to do now. And it's amazing to be able to touch the heart of somebody who's had a similar experience.
Yeah.
It's incredible, what the internet is allowing, and people being able to respond to you too. Mm. They have places on your site where you can make comments, right?
Yes. So, well, it's actually interesting how it started, because on my plan, what I wanted to do in life, there wasn't writing a book. But while I was pregnant, and also after the birth and the death of Amaya, I was somehow not able to talk about it, or I didn't want to actually meet people and have them say trivial things that helpless supporters normally say. And so I held back. I was more by myself. And so I wrote a lot of notes on Facebook, and I wrote emails to friends. At that time, it wasn't as big with blogs, or maybe I was just behind, but so I wrote a lot of notes. And then I was encouraged multiple times by multiple people, you should write a book. And the reason was because I actually shared, this is what would help me, and this is what's not helping me. And I was expressing and explaining the reality of my grieving experiences. And because I wasn't hiding, I was hiding in terms of people, in being inside of people, or having to converse with them. But I wasn't hiding my feelings, and I wasn't hiding my experience. And so I shared it, and I placed it there, and it was received well. And so from those encouragements, that's how the book started to become a reality, because as I said, I hadn't planned that. And that's how the first book, Grieving Parents Surviving Loss as a Couple, came into life.
So what are some of the things that you'd like to tell people from that book? What is helpful and what's not helpful?
For people who are supporting the bereaved parents, it's really helpful to know that just the power of their presence, and that is really, really important to know, that just by being there, they can do so much. And also supporters to take away the need to fix anything, because what grievers are feeling makes biological sense. And so for supporters to know what they're going through and what they're expressing is normal and is healthy. And if they know that, and if they can let go of the fear of, oh my God, this person is so distressed, I need to get her to feel better. If they can let go of that, they're doing a great service to the bereaved parent, because then they can have their experiences. And then also they don't have to hide their strong, quote unquote, negative emotions, but they can actually feel them and express them, which then actually leads them to take on healing, steps towards healing.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I like that. The idea of community is such an important thing, and being there. Well, I want to talk to you about some of the things that you're doing on Facebook and on the internet, because you have activities going on, and talk about May We All Heal, MAWA, and the women you're working with.
Yeah, so basically 1 year, and I'm always waiting for intuition. So 1 year, and that was the third book that came out, is the May We All Heal, Creative Healing After Loss. It's like a creative book where people can use that, and we do that as a free event during the month of May every year, because May is in lots of countries, in most countries it's Mother's Day, and also the first Sunday in May is International Bereaved Mother's Day. And so we wanted to support bereaved mothers. Also fathers took place, but specifically mothers. We wanted to support them during the month of May, which is quite challenging. It has a lot of triggers given the Mother's Day. And so we created this book, and this movement was actually already happening a year before. And basically we give them prompts for each day of the month, and they create something. And creativity can be seen as very broad. The first years it was more of a photographic journey, and they would photograph something, share it on Instagram and maybe on Facebook, and then share their thoughts about it. And the interesting thing happening was that by using the hashtags, they found each other on Instagram, and suddenly there was this community starting to happen where people, became friends over the internet across the world, and became a really tight-knitted community around that topic of grieving parents, or May We All Heal, or child loss, whatever the hashtags were they used, but we use May We All Heal specifically so they can find each other. And out of that came the creation of the peer support group, because I realized the group that we used to host the event and where people shared their images, that then became the placeholder, or the place for all these people to meet all year round. And that is a really beautiful group led by 3 beautiful women, the administration team, and they basically hold the space for these people to come share their story. We have theme days during the month of share a story.
Yeah, I love your theme day idea. I thought that was brilliant, to have these different themes for people.
It's just a way, to get people to talk about something, or to have the courage to share about what is going on in their lives. And, lots of people comment saying, I come here and here I can be real and honest. And, my ultimate dream would be that these people could be real and honest wherever they go and with whoever they are. My ultimate dream would be that society becomes more accustomed to grief, because we're all going to be grieving at some stage in our lives. I mean, if you haven't already lost someone, it's very likely that you do. I mean, my daughter Amaya, she was born into love, and she left before she lost anyone. She lost her sister, but normally we go through life and have losses. That's a given. And so if we can become better at understanding it and allowing it and saying yes to grieving others, and which then is triggered grieving ourselves, then it becomes normal and people can just be with that experience. Because one of the things I notice also with the group is grief needs to be heard and grief needs to be expressed. And if it hasn't been heard enough, it needs to be expressed some more. And as you know, I mean, you talk to many people, lots of the things that are being said is because society is shaming grievers into believing that their feelings and expressions are not timely or not suitable or an annoyance or a bit too much.
Oftentimes when we're grieving, we feel like something's wrong with us, we're doing it wrong, we're crazy, all these things, because like you said, society is giving us messages.
Exactly.
You're not moving through it fast enough, or you're not over it, all these things. And when we get together with like-minded individuals, we realize there's nothing wrong with what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then we can get real support.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying, there's biological sense in our experience. That's why we're having the experience, and we've just been led into believing the myth of grief. And my dream is really to change it even more. Like even 20 or 30 years ago, or in some countries even now, mothers are suggested not to see their baby if they have a stillborn, because they're taught, well, it's better for you to move on if you don't have connection to your baby. And I know that because a friend of mine who made a film, Return to Zero, he talked about one person that he spoke to in Italy where that was still the case. So that's not just hearsay, but also we've come such a long way where, I had a whole ritual with my baby and bathed her and dressed her and had the time that I needed, or I feel I needed.
Yeah.
So we've come a long way.
And there's right, Nathalie, there's places that do it well, but there's still hospitals today that I know of, because I supervise students in these hospitals, and I know one of them in particular that do a horrible job when women have babies that die after they give birth to them. That, like you said, want to whisk the baby away and not have any kind of time with the baby.
Yeah, and that's where I think if we can allow people, grieving parents, if I can enable them to feel normal in their grief, understood, and become, in the grieving process, come to the place where they feel strong enough to actually stand up and share their story. And the topic of this year's Maybe You'll Hear is Share Your Grief, share the reality of life after loss. I want to enable them to speak about it, because the more we speak, the more we get to see what actually is really going on. So people who have lost a child, they're very welcome to join our peer support group online. And you can find that through the website. And the website is simply called grievingparents.net, so N-E-T. And that's sort of the home where people can come and find information, get resources as well, and also get all the other links. There's also an event tab there where they can find out about Maybe You'll Heal. And there's also a tab about support where they can find about the peer support group. If people are on Facebook, they can also find us. It's a page called grievingparents.net under pages. And the Maybe You'll Heal group is simply facebook.com/groups/Maybe You'll Heal. But I mean, if you Google, that is easily found. I guess that would come up. And if people want to find out more about the resources that we've created, the latest one is actually a community book written by 26 parents who's written about their first year, and not just about sharing their story, but I've actually guided them to say, well, what challenged you in the first year and how did you manage that challenge? And there's some amazing stories in that book where
you can hold that up and show it.
Yeah. It's just amazing what they shared in there, because it's not rocket science what they did. And it's beautiful to see an array of different parents with different losses at different ages or gestation. The oldest one is a 23-year-old boy who was murdered. The youngest one is in pregnancy, an early loss and miscarriage. But really to see the whole range and what these people were doing. So if someone wants to find out more about those, you can simply find me on the Nathalie, that's spelled with TH, Himmelrich, HIMMELRICH.com. Or you can also Google, I'm sure it comes up.
Nathalie, thank you so much for being on the show and everything you're doing. And it's just really fantastic. And I'm so grateful for the internet that we found you.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all that you're doing, all the great work and all the information that you bring to also normalizing grief.
Thank you so much, Nathalie. This has been a great show.
And we want to thank everybody who has logged in, and we hope that you'll tell your friends and neighbors about opentohope.com. We've got radio shows, television shows, lots of interviews, lots going on there to give a voice to grief and recovery. And Heidi and I always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.